Welcome to the Fourth Step Podcast. On each episode, we interview recovering addicts and learn their story with addiction. Through exploring personal journeys, we get a glimpse of the depths addicts fall to and their path in recovery. We hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Fourth Step Podcast, and I'm here with...
My name's Josh. I'm 35 years old. I got coming up on 3 years clean time.
Nice.
We're going to talk about some resentments and some mess today.
And some fears and
all the good shit.
Everything that goes into being an addict.
We're going to actually work a 4-step with Jim here.
Nice. And also we have our friend Colin.
Yeah, I'm Colin. I'm glad to be here.
Nice.
Yep.
Welcome.
Yep.
And then Jim.
Jim, hey, my name's Jim. I'm an addict. 27 years clean. And looking forward to helping out.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
So what is it about the 4-step that... when the first time you ever did a 4-step in the program, what was there fear? What was that experience?
So, my experience with the first time that I had worked the 4-step with my first sponsor, David, rest his soul in peace, was I looked at the 4-step, man, and a lot of people, you hear in the rooms, oh my God, the 4-step, oh my God, the 4-step, it's big and it's scary, and for me, it was the opposite. For me, because I came in, man, I was broken. I knew I was broken, and I knew that I was ready, and I had surrendered, and I had done all the things required, to be present for the first time in my life. And so when I worked the first 3 steps and I got to the 4th-step, I saw it as thank God. I saw it and I felt it as an opportunity, so to speak, man, because we're as sick as our secrets.
Yeah.
Right. And I knew, and I don't know how, well, I know, I say things like that because I'm talking about God. Right. Because I saw for the first time that I needed to reveal these things.
You were ready.
I was ready. I was absolutely ready to do a fearless and moral inventory.
Wow.
And searching, right? Searching fearless moral inventory. I don't look, I get goosebumps because God has a plan for me, man.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I believe, and that's what a lot of us believe, that's the language that's used here.
Yeah. So was there, in our past, we've done some horrible shit, right? And was there ever, what was, the one thing that you go, oh, I don't know if I can give this one up? Or this is going to be really hard to give up? What's that story?
And again, so you say that, and I'm going to say this, man, because this is my truth. This is my experience. This is actually what happened, right? I started there first.
Let's tie it.
I started there first. And again, so these are the things that I try to explain. This is how God works in my life, right? Because I never wanted to start anywhere. Right?
Ignore it.
Yeah, but all of a sudden, well, isn't that what we do?
Yeah.
When we're getting loaded?
Numb it.
Numb it, ignore it, escape from it, make it different, or try to make it different. It is what it is until you do something different. Right? And so I say that to say this, I started at the stuff that I was going to take to my grave because I knew, and this is the God shot piece too, I'm going to tie that in. I knew if I didn't, I was going to get loaded again. So how do you know that? Right? How do you know that at 90 days clean? Yeah.
Without giving us details, dirty details that can incriminate you. Mm-hmm. What was that first?
It was definitely
first story that you shared.
Yeah, it was the sexual stuff
that
I felt ashamed about.
Yeah.
That I felt wrong about. That I actually felt that piece right there, the sexual and the physical violence that I acted out on others, on women. Let's get right on women.
Yeah.
Right. But it was the sexual stuff that let me feeling like I was
In charge.
that I wasn't worthy.
Oh,
Right, that I wasn't worthy of. See, so that's how I know, man. Again, see, so when I say that to say this, that God was working in my life because I had enough courage and willingness and open-mindedness to make my way through that with the help of my sponsor to go, this is what it is, man. You know what I mean? And call it by name out loud.
I can relate to that.
You know what I mean? And watch it lose its power.
Yeah.
Right? Watch it lose its power, man. Because, you know, after I revealed all these things to my sponsor, right? All these things that helped to keep me sick, right? My sponsor looked at me, you know, and now we're in a step 5, but my sponsor looked at me and said, me too.
Yeah.
that's big.
And so,
I remember, I remember it's very relatable that like, I'm ready. Like I remember that feeling and like, I look at it now and there's a lot of situations in life that show up where I'm like, I take a step back from them a little bit and I'm like, God, that was a lot. But like in the moment of just moving and acting, like if you think about like, I would imagine the stuff that you went through before you got to your fourth step in life, you're like, you've survived all that. So when it comes time, it's like this ain't gonna fucking kill me.
yeah.
This isn't gonna be the thing that takes me out. So it was like, let's get this out the way. Like there's for example, like, you know, I've been in some situations where like there's confrontation building and I know it's there. And like, at younger in my life where I was like, I know this thing is here and it's intimidating and it's scary, but I'm going to get it out of the way right now. I'm not going to sit around and wait. Like that's a relatable feeling as far as like, get the hard stuff out of the way. I'm ready to do this work.
Yeah,
Nice.
man. It was and well spoken, Josh. And for me, it was right on time, man. Because the weight of carrying that was so heavy. It was like crushing my spirit, man.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like I never had anywhere to put it. I never had anywhere to put that. So I saw where to put it in the third step. I mean, if we could talk about that for just a quick second, is because in the third step, man, in our literature, it says the need to control everyone and everything around us, right? We get to put that down now.
Nice.
Right?
So I got a question. What? Yeah.
I can fucking relate to that too.
It's crazy because it hit me like a ton of bricks, man. Right? It spoke to me more than anything else in that third step, and I was like, and then you look at that and you go, wow, I wonder why in step 4 I was ready to.
When was the first time you got loaded?
The first time I got loaded,
Or when did you start?
probably when I was about 13, 14.
How'd you lead into that? It's all right, man.
Just trying to be a part of something.
Yeah.
Left all alone at home. Divorced parents. Dad's gone. Mom's working 16, 17, 18 hours a day to raise 2 kids. You know, and all the things that happened prior to that, all the violence, all the trauma, all the nonsense. My first drug was alcohol.
Yeah.
And I remember drinking those beers, man, and it got quiet. It got quiet, right, Josh?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Hey, right, bro? All that noise went away. And I was like, and I remember thinking to myself, I found it.
What about you, Colin?
Oof. Yeah, it's interesting because I don't even know, the first time, because I think I was dabbling in, probably around 12 or 13, but I didn't really start, getting into things, until about 15 and, inadequacy, right? I felt inadequate and I had nowhere to fit in, and it was commonalities between, same types of music and things like that. And it was like, oh, okay, this is the crowd that I want to be in. Oh, well, we, are bringing flasks to, the high school dances and, smoking pot after school and this and that. I'm like, oh, okay.
Started as a social thing.
Yeah. And it was born out of just that wanting to fit in. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know if I even like really felt the effects, but what I did feel was accepted. And that's what I was after. Is I just wanted people to like me. I know like Jim and I and Josh and I had conversations about our childhood. Did you have something in your childhood that triggered anything, or you just didn't feel a part of your family? Yeah, I really didn't. Which is always kind of like this disconnect between, you hear around the rooms like, oh, I was molested, abused, locked in closets. I just wasn't, I
was.
Yeah, there's plenty of people that's happened to. It just wasn't my story. Like my parents, were together, up until I graduated well, that's a different story on its own. But it was more, I had an overachieving sister, and I think that I would just always look at her and be like, well, why can't I perform like she does? And so it was always like, it was just born into me, like always just
not
feeling like I was inadequate.
I got a brother like that. He's
super
super smart, genius, figures everything out on his own. And I'm the youngest of three boys, and he was the middle one. And, my dad and stepmom always say, why can't you be more like him?
Yeah. And I don't even know if I got that. It was like this whole, because I've always been, pretty introverted for the most part. And so it was all this, fantasy, I think, in my head that like, well, why don't I like school? My sister likes school. She's doing all these AP classes. Why don't I like it? Why don't I like playing, piano or whatever? Like, just why? Like, I could never find a spot. Like, I just
interesting.
couldn't.
Yeah, interesting. Like, I know for a fact that Jim and I share a very, very violent childhood. And that's what's really cool, interesting about the diversity of everybody that shows up in these rooms. Like everybody has somewhat of a different story, but the feelings are always there. Mm-hmm. Same feelings, different story.
Sure.
So what about, Jim, what about the working the 4-step did you fear? I know you kind of went into that already, but
yeah,
like, you talked about the sexual part of the inventory, but what about the violence growing up?
The violence growing up was
that hard to talk about?
With my sponsor, no. It was crazy because David made me feel so safe and so comfortable and so loved.
A special man to have that early.
That I was able nothing had to really be pulled out of me. I mean, there was things that I would talk about that I didn't know, then they go, hey man, you might want to look at this, and this. I'd go, oh, okay. But I was still revealing it all so that he could say, you might want to look at this, and that.
Was there anything you kept back? Like, and then gave up later?
No.
It all came out?
It all came out.
Wow.
As crazy as that
hard,
sounds,
dude.
man.
That's mine too.
Hey man, it was the sexual stuff, the being molested, the putting my hands on other women because I swore I never would because I saw what my dad did, but I repeated the behavior.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that so those things, but thank God, man, because I really believe I truly believed that if I didn't, I was gonna go get high, and I was done getting high, man. I was done being in active addiction because I was so just ready.
Yeah.
It was because of the moment of clarity, Kev, right?
Yeah.
The moment of clarity where you go, really, I'm gonna go get loaded again. Really, I'm gonna go do this thing again, and then after I get done doing this thing again, I'm gonna turn around and I'm gonna blame try to blame whatever circumstance, that thing, man. And it was like it actually became not from an arrogant standpoint, but it became nonsense.
I'm so sure that what I've been doing is not going to work anymore, that I'm willing to try this, and if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Josh. Well put.
So
Spot
when
on.
that's common for a lot of people I hear over the years that want to put in as much into this program as that they did getting loaded. And a lot of us are so in fear of giving up those secrets because of the trauma that they've experienced. I'm talking about myself. Like, I've given up some information to people in my circle when I was getting loaded, and it came back to be ammunition, and they used it against me. Does it relate to that?
I've had one thing beat me home one time.
Yeah?
In recovery?
Yep.
Okay.
From the meeting.
Yeah.
And
What was
my
that
wife
about?
went, I forget what specifically it was about, but I know when I walked in the front door, she was like, "What's up with that?" And I go, "What's up with what?" And she went, "Bing, bing, 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 bing." And I went, "Oh no."
Shit. That meeting wasn't a safe place.
Exactly.
Fuck me.
Check that meeting off the list of safe places.
Is that where you learned how to discern
man.
what to share?
Yes, sir. So that's being my sponsor, my now sponsor, Kevin, who's been my sponsor for 26 years. I said, man, there's things that you say at meeting level, and there's things that you say to me.
Yeah.
And
I go, okay, Kevin.
Not everybody is a safe place.
You're exactly right.
You be around a ton of good people, and it just takes one shitty or unlearned person to understand how important it is to keep anonymity, and you're fucked.
You know what? And sometimes it's not even a shitty person. Sometimes
Just didn't know.
Yeah, sometimes people will go home to their girlfriends or husbands or whatever and say, "Man, poor so-and-so, they're really going through it. This is what happened to them."
It's a tight-knit community. Information moves.
Right.
It moves quickly.
Yeah. So when you were getting loaded, what was the first time you ever went to jail?
Oh, Jesus. First time I went to jail was for DUI.
How old were you?
Oh, Jesus. No, I'm sorry. Let me back up. You mean ever? As a juvenile.
Yeah.
Yeah, juvenile hall.
Yeah.
I was so proud of myself too, man, because I had taken so much time to forge my mom's signature on a check.
Nice.
I had it down perfect. Poor mom, I'm sorry. But I forged a $40 check.
40.
Hey,
Yeah.
I did that too.
$40 check.
Yeah.
I think got a $20 bag of weed and an Iron Maiden album.
Sick.
Yeah.
You knew what you wanted.
Yeah, man.
Colin, what was your check?
No,
$40?
Yeah, it was Washington Mutual too. It was right before, I think it was before they kind of things exploded with them. And my dad, I even remember him. The bank called and were like, "Dude, these signatures don't match up." And my dad, he's just like, he doesn't want me to go to jail. He's like, "No, don't worry about it." Blah blah blah. I think I wrote like "Happy Birthday" on it, so it.
I think I did the same. You know what's funny? I think I did the same thing, Colin. The same thing, man.
But I even did
So funny.
the I'm gonna deposit $20 and then dump in an empty envelope, and then pulling out the $20 and yeah. I tried that one a couple of times. So
Juvenile Hall, Jim.
Yeah.
San Mateo County?
Yes, sir. Hillcrest.
21 Tower Road, Belmont?
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't get mail there either.
Yeah.
I spent a little over 3 years in and out of there just because I couldn't go home. I left home at 15. What about you?
Yeah, I was in and out of home. From when I was 14, I was 18. That was my introduction to jails,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the end of jails. It was the beginning of a long process of being in and out of jails until I got clean at 27. Yeah.
Nice.
How old are you now, Jim?
54.
4.
So what, when we talk about fourth step, it always comes up with resentments, fears, So in resentments, there's always the question about what is the biggest resentment, and you still carry that.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Like an institution or people or
Yeah. So when I did my first resentment list, Kev, you know, again, when I did my first resentment list, I was writing my resentments down. I was listing them, and I was writing out my resentments. And by the time I got to each one of my resentments, I went, "This has nothing to do with them." It was
That's a simple process right
right.
there.
I mean, to a point where I was like, I would like list like 7, 8, 9, 10 of them, and I would reread them and go, "Nope, this is everything to do with me and not them." It was crazy.
What about a resentment toward yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm still on the top of my list. Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I get
still. I'm still at the top of my list because I'm so hard on myself still sometimes, man. Not as much, not as consistent, but I'm still, you know, got this perfectionism thing, the fear.
yeah.
You know, one of the best things my sponsor ever taught me about fear was to get to know fear. You know, and I think you know the story that I'm about to say about that, where I was standing. We were at the Monday night basement meeting in Menlo Park, and we always just sit at the back of the wall, right, on this little thing at the back of the wall, at the back of the room. And the meeting ended, and somebody said, "No fear." And my sponsor was sitting right next to me, and I jumped down off the wall, and I stand up, and I clench my fist, and I go, "Yeah," and I look around with this scowl, and I go, "Yeah, that's right, man, no fear." And my sponsor turned around and looked at me like I was crazy, because I was. Right? And he said, "Check this out, Jim. No fear. Not N-O-K-N-O-W. No fear."
Good one.
And then he went on to give me a bunch of assignments about, you know, letting go of fear, knowing fear, letting, you know, and all these assignments that got me to understand that, you know what, fear has been my greatest teacher,
Yeah.
right? If we walk through the fear, you always get to the truth. There is not one time I have not walked through fear and not gotten to the truth, man.
Well, speaking of that, what have you ever been like in the very beginning, not now, but as a newcomer, were you ever dishonest about taking or owning the resentment? You know, like it wasn't me. Like this dude, honestly,
Deflect.
yeah, he honestly harmed me.
Yeah, no, he really deserved it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure that there were times. Yeah, more than likely. None that come to mind, but I saw pretty quickly, man, that I was just spinning this bullshit. You know, that other shit was it was a lie. You know? Now there was stuff that again I didn't see, so I would just act that way because it wasn't in my awareness yet.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
If you could see it, you could accept it pretty quick.
If I could see it, then it could be spoken to, and then I could start working on it, and then through a process be set free from it. Not perfectly, not every single time, but again, through practice in a more consistent nature.
You
Yeah.
still can deal with like resentments towards yourself from past, like way back, or are the most of the resentments that you deal with yourself current?
They're more current now, and that's just because of the step work, though, man. Right? That's because of the practice, the step work, the writing, the praying, the bringing it to my sponsor, the kind of piecemealing it together, and again, knowing where I fit with things, man. Knowing what was mine and what is not mine. That has been one of the biggest things because I'll own everything. Right?
Yeah.
I will literally own, and even if it's not mine, I will try to find some way to make it mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's
fuck yeah.
that's just the nature of the disease, man.
Yeah.
It's what it does. It wants me to feel bad about me.
Because it is all about you.
Exactly.
I'm doing
Yeah.
I'm doing an 8-step right now, and was writing down one of the questions is. I called Kevin to talk to him about it. Where do you owe amends at? And I couldn't fuck just myself. I was the only person on the list. Like I owe myself amends, and then I started getting resentful towards myself. Like, fuck, man. Like you have been treating yourself like shit. And that's current. That's now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's like
Exactly.
that's today.
I get so mad at myself sometimes when I fall short. I am just not willing to accept my humanness and the fact that I have this disease, and it's going to amplify everything when I get afraid.
Yeah.
You know, and then I really treat myself, and so it saddens me, man. I feel really sad about it.
Yeah, so it saddens you when you realize that you acted out in character defect.
Exactly, it really saddens me.
So
man.
yeah, for me, I it might be the same, but I get depressed.
I get angry.
I do too.
I get upset.
First is anger. So what I know about anger is a lot of my anger was never really anger.
Secondary.
It was sadness and it was disappointment, man. You know, it was damn. Why didn't I know? You know, that thing I should have known. You know. So, but yeah, so I have this thing, man, where when I know it affects me to that level, and I've talked to my sponsor about this before many times, man, about many different things, and he says, and he says this to me. He says, Jim, you're still healing in that area of your life, you know. So be compassionate towards yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So all those feelings, were you able to identify them as they come up?
No, not all of them. No way. No, just once the anger hits, I'm angry, and the way I talk to myself is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's deep rooted, man. It's like I phrase it as it seeps into my bones, right?
So
it feels that deep.
Yeah, I think we had the same thing growing up. Is that we were told that we're no good. We were told that we're gonna, or I was told that like I'm not gonna amount to anything, or I am the problem. I was told that a lot growing up.
Yeah.
And I take that today, even now. Like if I like misspeak when I'm, you know, relating with Jen, you know, and I hurt her feelings, immediately, first I'm angry, same thing. First I'm angry at myself for acting out on a character defect.
And you want to blame somebody else because that's easier.
Oh,
fuck,
right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, of course.
But the problem is I know better.
Yeah.
Because of the work, right? I know better. Then I get depressed because all those old tapes.
Bunch of sensitive, damaged motherfuckers.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's the deepness of how deep it runs.
Yeah.
Right? Because it reverts back. It's never right. It never has to do with today. I mean the part where we interacted with our wife or interacted with whoever is today.
Yeah.
But how we feel about how we feel doesn't come from today. When we fall short, it comes from a long time ago when we were wounded, man.
So yeah,
You know?
so you know, our friend Eddie, right?
Yeah.
And early recovery was there. He has a saying that he still talks about. It wasn't his, but he would bring it up. It's do the 2-foot drop. Do you remember the 2-foot drop?
Yeah.
From your head to your heart. Mm-hmm. Right? So today, I'll get depressed, and then if I'm spiritually connected, I'll do the 2-foot drop, and in my heart, I'm like, I'm not a bad dude. Mm-mm. I'm not mean. I'm actually a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that 2-foot drop when I'm trying to figure something out. I'll call Kevin and I'm running numbers. I'm mathing like a motherfucker, and he's like, "You're doing a lot, dude. Like, get out of your head, you know."
No
2-foot
way, dude.
drop.
I'm Tron.
Yeah.
I'm Tron right now, man.
I'm mapping shit out right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to give a fuck about how I feel. Fuck this.
Right.
No, we do try and figure stuff out, but when we like do the 2-foot drop and we get into our heart, we start realizing our feelings. Then it is like, oh.
That's the freedom from active addiction.
Yeah.
As soon as you can do it, though, man, the freedom is there. Because if you really, really get in touch with like how you feel about yourself and what's going on, and it's a different feeling, especially when you've done some work.
Yeah, exactly. So what like in your active addiction, you know, you like did time, juvenile hall and jail. What was like one of the craziest times when you were getting loaded?
Story time.
Like how far did you go?
Last time I got high.
Yeah.
I remember it like yesterday. Last time I got high, I just caught from my buddy in Redwood City. My wife had already got clean. She's got 30 more days clean than me. We both have 27 years clean. And so I didn't have my running buddy no more. I was by myself, and I was over at my buddy's house, just copped some dope. He's tweaking, I'm tweaking. I remember making sure I had my dope in my pocket. We were going to use all his dope first, and then I would take mine home and get loaded by myself. And then we started smoking crank out of a broken light bulb in the kitchen.
Did that before.
And then check this stuff out, man. It's so crazy. And then I go, okay, bro, I'm out of here. Oh, I'm sorry. Before that, I was in the corner of the room with a cup of water. I was already going into psychosis because it wasn't even working anymore, man. I would be high for maybe a half hour.
Fuck.
And then I would think everybody could read my mind, and you know what I mean? And people were looking through the walls, and you know. So I got a good idea. I'm going to drive home, unlicensed, uninsured. You know what I mean? So I jump in the car, and I say a prayer. Is that crazy?
No.
I go, God, please get me home so I can finish the rest of this bag without getting pulled over by the cops. And
That's
I got
probably
home.
a pretty good prayer at the time.
Dude, I got home, used the rest of the dope, and 3 days later got clean.
That's heavy.
Is that crazy?
That's heavy.
That is crazy,
Wait,
man.
how'd you get clean?
Moment of clarity.
So what'd you do?
So, okay, one of my buddies called me. We had the same probation officer. Again, I've been on probation since I was 14 years old.
Nice.
I was 25 now, or I'm sorry, 27, and my buddy Mike calls me. Hey, bro, our PO thinks you're getting loaded. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? I'm clean. Dude, he's all, hey, man, I can't understand you. Your voice is muffled. I go, oh, let me get the shotgun out of my mouth. Here you go. You know what I mean? Because I was there, man. I mean, really, I'm trying to make it funny. But yeah, I was like, Jesus, man. And I said, Mike, you know what? I'm not getting loaded. I'm clean. I'm going to a meeting tomorrow. Yada, yada, yada. And the last thing this guy told me was, hey, man, I called to tell you that, but I also called to tell you that I loved you.
Wow.
And it shot straight through.
It hit.
Shot straight through.
Yeah.
And so how long? So some of us know this, right? Because this is some of our stories, and it's not some of our stories. But some of us, we put a lot of energy and time in building this thing that keeps us insulated. This shield, this protective coating.
The armor in the walls.
The armor in the walls, man. And when he told me he loved me, it shot straight through all that, man.
I think that the ability to do that, my experience with that in my personal life, and then seeing that with other people, like even just what you're talking about right now, is God showing up for you through somebody else.
100%.
Because there's at the point in my life where I had that, where somebody hit me, like it hit, there's nobody that could have told me anything. Nobody was telling me shit. And even the guy that told me, I was like, if it was going to be anybody, it had to be him. He was the only one that could even possibly hit me like that. And then for it to actually work, and like the sequence of events that led up to it, like the timing, everything, I was just broken enough and just desperate enough and confused enough to where like he was able to be that vessel that, you know, he said the words that lined up just right to where I was like, fuck, man.
Right?
And he was loaded too. He was loaded too. Like we were both loaded, and he was like, you know, I'm sitting on a bunk with him. I'm in prison, and he's like, this isn't for you. Like, and we keep in mind, like we just did a removal a couple days ago. Like we've been putting in work together. Like it wasn't like there was nothing peaceful and nice and loving about this guy. Mm-hmm. And he had this. He was the vessel. You know, this isn't for you. Like you still have a chance. If you don't get clean before you leave here, this is what it is for you. Like you're going to be me. And, you know, he was the older cat, you know, been in and out for the last 25, 30 years. And, yeah, it hit. God used him, you know, God uses people for people like us, you know, it has to be somebody that we can relate to. It sounds like it was somebody that you've been on probation with, parole with.
Exactly.
I love you to hear that from somebody.
Hey, man, you know what's crazy about that is this, too. Is the guy says that to me. I have this moment of clarity right after he says that to me, right? I'm like, what am I going to do? And I talked about a little bit about that earlier. Am I going to go get loaded one more time and then blame everybody else and the circumstances and this, that, and the other? Or am I going to do something different? And I decided to do something different.
Was he in the program?
Yeah. He's not clean anymore, but he was.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, and Josh explained it, spoke to a little bit too. How crazy is that? That for the first time in my life, I hear that, right? And then not only that, but then I act on it in a way that's going to help me.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Because right after he said that, I hung up the phone and I went to my first sponsor's house, high as a kite. And he had been paging me, right? I'm going to date myself. I already said I was 54. He's paging me. I hadn't seen him in 2 years.
Wait, you already dated yourself when
Yeah.
you said crank.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Nobody knows what that
It's so funny. Right.
That's hilarious.
So I hadn't seen him in 2 years, and he kept paging me for 2 years. And then, you know, when I was ready, I knew where to go,
is. Yeah.
and that's where I went.
Colin, what about you? How did you get clean that last time you got loaded, or was it soon after that?
Oh boy. I mean, because there's been a couple of times that I've gotten clean.
What's the very first time you were introduced to NA?
Yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting one. I think I was 16 or 17, and I started, you know, I started slow, but within 3 months I was just rocking and rolling. And I can't remember if, I think my parents were trying to find inpatient rehab for me because I had holes all over my arms, and they were like, well, what's going on? And so they were more freaked out. They were like, dude, we thought you were just smoking weed. We didn't know you were, you know, shooting dope. And I'm like, okay, cool. And
You told them there were mosquito bites?
dude, what did I tell them? I don't think I told them anything because I think I pretty much was like, you know, like just like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, you know? And because I would always, you know, wear long sleeve shirts or, you know, whatever, so no one would ever say anything. And I remember it was a meeting during the summer, and it was supposedly like a young people's meeting, you know, and
How'd you get introduced to it?
you
knew somebody?
So let me back up. So what I did was I was able to convince my parents, instead of going into inpatient rehab, that I'd go to this outpatient program in Citrus Heights. And like, they did this interview, and I was high as a kite, and I told the guy, I don't want to stop. Like, I just want to keep getting loaded. Like, this is fun. I'm having a great time. and so he told my mom, like, oh yeah, you know, we think he'd benefit from outpatient. So I was going to outpatient, which is where they kind of were like, hey, you know, there's 12-step programs and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of how, you know, Narcotics Anonymous was like brought into things, you know, and then it was more, you know, like, well, let's, you know, I'll take you to a meeting. And then I get to a meeting, and it's just a bunch of old people, you know, talking, you know, the whole time, and eating lunch and this and that. And I'm freaked out, you know, because I just don't do well with, you know, groups of people that I don't know. And so,
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and one guy reached out to me, and I still know him, and I believe he's still clean today. Reached out and gave me a hug, and you know, and that was weird because, like I said, it was hot in California and people are sweaty and it was gross.
There's another dude.
I'm like 16. Yeah, exactly. Another
Right.
dude. Like you know, we didn't hug in our family. Like that's just wasn't, you know, we don't say I love you. You know, that's just not something that happens.
Nor in my family.
Yeah. And so it's like, I'm getting a hug from another man. And I'm like, dude, this is like, you know, this is weird. And, I never went back to another NA meeting until later on. But that was my...
Later on, like in your late 20s?
No, 18. 18, I went back to an NA meeting. And that's a trippy story. And actually, I think I told you this story.
Tell me.
It was... So my dad had gotten his second DUI.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was at an AA meeting, and he met a guy who had 90 days or 6 months, and my dad was sharing that, hey, my son's in inpatient rehab. He just turned, or no, I was 17 at the time then. So I was 17 because I hadn't turned 18 yet. And he's all screwed up and blah, blah, blah. And then I saw that guy at a meeting.
Huh.
While I was in rehab, we went to that meeting, and
Yeah.
he was there. And I'm like, are you, so-and-so? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you met my dad. And it was just like this total thing. And so when I would go home on the weekends, I think, no, because I don't know if I was able to go home on the weekends. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But we hooked up, and he showed me a meeting that, I still attend pretty regularly today.
What meeting?
Friday Night Alternative.
Nice.
Yeah, he took me
Lewis.
there. Yeah, he took me there. Yeah, it was in Roseville at Kaiser at that time. And he took me there, and it was like, I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been wanting, because AA and, they're like, wow, you can't say addict in here. And I'm like,
I've spilled more alcohol than you've ever drank.
Well, you got to remember that being 17 or 18 at that time, it's like, it's way easier to get, your hands on everything but booze. Booze we were getting from a homeless guy. That's just how we had to get it.
Yeah.
We couldn't get it any other way because everybody else, all the friends had already been busted and their parents had locked the cabinets and shit like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was tough. It was tough for me to relate in an AA meeting because it just wasn't my thing. I was never around it.
Jim, did you ever go to AA?
Yeah, actually, first year I had in recovery was in AA.
Yeah.
Then I transitioned over to NA. Yep.
I think there was, if I remember, there were like, when I got clean, there were like 4 meetings a week
That's what you
of
said,
NA.
yeah.
And so we had to do AA. When I say we, I had to do an AA also, if I wanted to stay clean. So I would show up at AA meetings, and at the time I was on 2 years of probation, with a 6-year prison sentence hanging on my head. And
Yeah, joint suspended.
yes. And so I had to get the court card signed. And so I'm showing up at these meetings, getting my court card signed. And I go to this AA meeting that I've been going to for, 8-9 months. And my PO shows up at the meeting. And I'm like, I'm pretty kind of pissed off. Like, what, you followed me, and we were, in the meeting we talk about like we're not under surveillance at any
Exactly,
time,
I was gonna say
which is
that.
bullshit. But and so I confronted this guy, and he goes, "Whoa, Kev, hey, I'm here for me. I'm a part of this program." And then it dawned on me, like, oh, that's the reason you never rolled me up and sent me to prison for the last 4 dirty tests that I dropped. Because they're supposed to roll you up after the first one. And I gave him 4, and he kept giving me a chance. It's like, shit, he's one of us. That's a trip.
That is a trip.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
So, other part of that 4-step, there's a question in the step working guide. What conflicts in my personality make it difficult for me to maintain friendships and or romantic relationships? That always hit me pretty heavy. With my own personality, I could look back now and see what I was doing that affected the relationships. Can you look back now and see what kind of part of your personality that was really like causing harm in the relationships?
Oh yeah, I mean, me and my wife separated for 8 months. Right? She came to me one day, and I had about 7 years clean. Or we had about 7 years clean, and she says, "Hey Jimmy," she comes home one night after work. She says, "Hey, I need to talk to you." I said, "Okay, let's talk." And we sat down on the back balcony of our condo, and she says, "I need to tell you that I'm leaving."
Yikes.
And I go, what do you mean? Like, you going to the store? You're going shopping? I mean, what do you mean you're leaving? And she says, I'm leaving.
Leaving you.
Yes. And I was like, how could why? Well, how could? No, first thought was like, okay, who is he and where is he? Really? I mean, right? I mean, come on, man. I was like, okay, who is he and where is he? Because I want to just have a conversation with him.
Yeah. We're gonna talk this. We're gonna talk about this. Yeah. You can stay here.
Yeah, I have some pretty spiritual things that I want to talk to him about. But yeah, so she says, listen, I don't even feel like I live here. I don't feel like this is our home.
Huh.
And we had 2 kids, and I said, okay, well, you know, you're not taking the kids. We're going to split the time, and we're going to do this, you know, in a responsible way. And she left. And I remember when she left, let me back up for a minute. Further on in the discussion, after she said she was leaving, I got really upset and I got really afraid. And I said, hey, what do you mean you don't feel like you live here? Why don't you go in my fridge and see if there's food in there? Why don't you go sit on the couch that I bought brand new 3 weeks ago? Why don't you go in the bedroom and lay on the double comforter, you know, blah 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 that I purchased for you?
There's the ego and false pride.
Right. I've worked the steps. I know, and I'm using this language. I have a sponsor. I've worked the steps. I've done the writing. You know, and I say that to say this: when she left, when she packed her things and she left, she took the one thing. There was a little leather chair in the corner of our bedroom that she took, and a few days later, when I walked in the house by myself and looked around, I knew exactly what she was talking about. Everything was mine. Everything was on Jim's terms. You know, and it opened my eyes, man, about how I was so afraid.
So, yeah, you guys weren't partners.
No, she was at that point. She was just pretty much. I mean, I don't want to use her hostage, but everything was under my roof.
Well, yeah, we use that term.
Yeah,
I've done it too.
Yeah,
Same shit.
yeah. You know. So what happened? So we did the work, right? And she moved right across the street from my shop.
So you had to see her.
True story.
Just
True story.
fucking with you.
Right across. I mean, I would walk out and she would be right there. And you know, we did the work.
Hi, Jim.
She was keeping an eye on you.
Yeah. So we both did the work and we continued to work and we ended up coming back together, man. And now she's my best friend. She's my buddy because of the work that we did. Because through the step work, through the inventories, you know, through the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, obviously, I saw the truth, man.
And I've been to your house, and I see a lot of your wife in there.
That's what I'm saying.
All over the place.
So what did I do? Check this out. So what did I do?
It's awesome.
Right? So what did I do? One of the first things I did was around her 40th birthday, or for her 40th birthday, I had a painting of her done. Right, I knew an artist from going into people's homes, and I found an artist. I had him do a painting of her. So the first thing you saw when you walked into our house was a picture of a painting of my wife.
Nice.
Right, because it was ours now. It wasn't mine.
That's awesome.
Right. So yeah, that was it was a good lesson.
Powerful lesson, yeah.
Oh well, it was a very powerful lesson in humility. It was a very powerful lesson in how you can really be sick and not know that you're sick.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, years into recovery, even when you're doing the step work, even when you're putting pen to paper and hitting your meetings and helping others and sponsoring people and being sponsored, it's a slow grind, man.
Well, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
I remember,
exactly right.
I remember in that, a similar environment that I created for myself, the fact that I had created the environment empowered the idea that everything was okay because I had the stuff, I had the girlfriend, I had the car, I had the good job, like I created all the things.
Yes.
And so like, how could I be fucking up?
Exactly.
How could I be fucking up? But like outwardly to somebody else is like, none of this, it's Josh's way. It's my way or fuck you. And it felt okay. I felt okay about it until it wasn't anymore.
Exactly.
And now you know different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now because I know that we all get that.
It took the pain of the consequences of acting that way to learn better.
Yep.
Now you feel it in your gut.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, this is wrong.
Humility, unconditional love, understanding, patience, all that shit.
Absolutely. So what I had created was a safe place, right, for me.
Yeah.
Right? I created a safe place for me because, so check this stuff out, man. I had created a safe place for me, unbeknownst to me, right? And all I was trying to do was protect her in my safe place.
Protect her from what?
From whatever, right? From whatever.
Okay, so did that go back to your childhood?
Exactly. Well, I'm just going there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Childhood for 200.
Nice.
Right. So we had got into marriage counseling. Right. We had gotten into marriage counseling, and my sponsor had me working on some stuff, and right. And I could never create a safe space at home because my dad would tear it into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah.
Right. I could never. No matter how much energy, how hard I tried, how smart I think I could get, I could never quite get it to be safe.
Yeah.
So I created a safe space for me and to try to protect my wife from God knows what. Because it was always the unknown. It was unpredictable. It didn't matter. As long as I had this thing created, it was going to be okay. You know?
What about, yeah, so I get that. And from that childhood, do you experience like OCD?
Oh, absolutely. PTSD, OCD. Yeah.
All of that stuff?
Oh, Jesus, dude.
Yeah.
All the letters.
You know, yeah. So,
Start throwing letters out there. We'll put something together.
So the breaking point for me, and what I believe was the real shift in the relationship on my side, and then it enabled us to come together because I needed to have that breakthrough, man. Was when we were in therapy, we were in marriage counseling, and our counselor was Chuck N. You remember Chuck N?
I do.
Passed away.
Love Chuck.
Yeah, I love Chuck too, man. And I'm saying some stuff in therapy. We're talking, and Chuck looks at me and he says, "What?" And I go, "Whoa, what do you mean, what?" And he said, "Boy, that is not your mother."
Uh-huh.
And I went, "Oh, look, I get goosebumps, man," because it was like, because he knew, he saw, I didn't see. And I said, "Chuck, I know it's not my mom. That's my wife. What are you talking about?" And then he leaned in
Huh?
and went, "Boy, that is not your mother." Right?
Heavy.
And the rest is history, man, because I can backpedal. I can backpedal pretty good, right? And hide behind words and right? I'm like, well, wait a minute, Chuck, I haven't prayed on that. I haven't ran that by my sponsor. I haven't written on that. You know what I mean? All this stuff. And so a week had gone by, and I was processing what had taken place. And next session, we were talking about some stuff, and all of a sudden, it hit me like a ton of bricks, man. And I cracked, and I cried, probably as hard as I've ever cried in my life, with Chuck and my wife, to a point where Chuck asked my wife, "Hey, Desiree, do you want to leave the room for a minute? We need to put your husband back together." Right? Because there was tears, snot, shit flying out of my mouth. I mean, uncontrollable breathing where I couldn't catch my breath.
Was that everything from the past catching up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was me seeing me trying to protect my mom by treating my wife that way.
Which wasn't really protecting her.
No, it was not. I was harming her.
Yeah.
Right? So
We don't know that though.
I know all that came to me, and I'm sobbing, and I just, and then he asked her, "You want to leave the room so we can put her back together?" And my wife said no, and she grabbed my hand,
Wow. Shit.
and she sat, and I sobbed,
Sick.
and so
That's
so
tight.
check this shit out, man. I love you, Mom. My mom never grabbed my hand and said, "It's gonna be all right," after the room was ripped into 1,000 fucking pieces.
She became a safe place for you. Yeah, I just experienced that recently. A hug, a
Badass.
safe place, a hug, and I cried.
Right?
Just broke down.
Right.
Little Josh was talking to Big Josh.
Exactly.
Fuck, man. It's powerful.
Hey, it was never our job to put it back together.
No, and that's one thing that I've learned through a lot of this stuff, step work. But then we have to go like outside
Oh,
and get to outside help
100%.
for a lot of us.
me too.
And when I did that the first time, I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I'm like, you don't understand. I've never been in the military. I've never been to war, and I don't have PTSD. They're like, you grew up in a war zone.
Yes.
And they had to explain
Yep.
what that war zone was, like a father that never showed love and continuous violence.
It's all relative.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
all that
It's
stuff.
Super traumatic. As a young child, we're not equipped to process any of that.
No.
I mean, grown adults aren't equipped to process that in war.
Right?
And we're 5'4", 5'6". I mean, and we're experiencing that in the house. I mean,
to the person that's never been to war compared to the person that's been to war, a bomb going off and killing your squad is equivalent to watching your mother get beat,
Right.
or
Exactly.
or you getting beat by your father repeatedly, or whatever. You know, it's relative.
I grew up in a constant state of fear. And I remember we talked about that before. Like, never, ever in my entire childhood did I feel safe. Ever. And what I learned from, from somebody that came before me, from an old sponsor, Irish James,
nice.
I need to treat my children the way I wish I was treated. And so I was always available for my kids. I had to learn how to be available. And it was hard for my kids because I was still going through
Yeah.
all the work.
Yeah.
So they experienced a lot of my trauma in their own life.
They got to see the growth though too.
Hey, I'm so glad you spoke that out loud, man. Because, I mean, some of the stuff that I've had to talk to my sponsor about raising my boy, and seeing some of the stuff that my dad passed on to me that I passed on to my son
Yeah.
while I'm in my process of getting better, was really, really hard for me to accept. Because I never wanted it in my house.
That's where the shame and guilt came in for me.
Never wanted it in my house. And when I saw it, man, I was like, God dang it, man. And I go to my sponsor, and he would say again, Jim, you're not done healing in these areas yet, and it's okay. You're not your dad,
Yeah.
right? And your son's not, right? So,
I always thought I was a hero because I never laid a hand on my kids. Three children, never laid a hand on them. I thought I was a winner. But I still didn't have that emotional maturity to be fully vested in living their lives with them. You know?
yeah.
That hit you?
Yeah, because I'm not there. I'm not there, and it's because I come from like a stepdad kind of role where, her father's still in her life, but she lives with us, pretty much, 75% of the time. And it's like, we'll hang out. We got a great, relationship, but it's super surface level, and it's just, I'm just like, ooh, uh-oh.
Well, she's old enough. Do you ever consider sharing your feelings with her? Or asking her about her feelings?
We don't have those types of conversations.
You can start.
Yeah.
And she is old enough too that she has a part in that.
Yeah. Well, so
Like, is she available for that and you're not?
she'll come in and
Okay.
be like, "How you doing?" And she'll like, it'll be like, "Hey, I want to spend time with you," and I'm just like it's so uncomfortable. Like I'm crawling out of my skin.
Yeah.
Were you raised like that?
I don't think so.
I mean, did your dad or your mom, were they kind of
No.
not
That's
available?
interesting.
No. No, they
So you
weren't
don't
like
know
that.
where that came from, huh?
No, it's more. I think it has to do with inadequacy, right? It always comes down to inadequacy
Yeah.
for me, in that I'm not the father, I'm the stepfather. I'll let them deal with, the emotional stuff and blah blah blah, and I'll just hang out and be a sideline.
So you avoid intimacy
Yep.
with a daughter that might need that from you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
How old is she?
she's 10. Oh, yeah. And and it's, I avoid intimacy with everyone. It's not just her.
Well, you're honest.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
No, I get that.
fuck yeah, that's relatable.
well, and it's not like I'm scared. Like, I'm super, like, if you start talking to me, like, I open up like a book. Like, but
I've been telling you that.
yeah.
Like, you're really easy to get along with.
Yeah,
But
see,
I don't-
totally is.
But
man.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't know what it is. It's the intimacy thing. It's like, you talk to me and I'll share my whole life story with you. I don't care. It's just, I'm an open book at that point, but it's like the feelings. I can share all day in words and blah, 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 and, tell you my life story, but there's no feelings
I
shared.
get that. I understand
Yeah.
what you're telling. I understand
Yeah,
what you're describing.
there's like, it's like, oh, okay, cool.
I factually did this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Yeah, that was
and
fucked up. I
it's-
did that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I love you. It's like, oh, cool, thank you. It's like that, there's like, I just don't feel
Yeah,
it on
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
And I've always, I was told by an older sponsor that said, like, I asked him one time, I was like, why don't you say I love you to like every, because like my wife, dude, she's like, I love you to like everyone. I'm like, ugh. And
Well,
like,
we love her back.
I do. My wife, yes, of course. But like, I don't run around telling people I love them because like, I gotta feel it,
Colin, I love you.
And see, I'm just like, okay, cool, thank you, And then my head goes into like analyzation mode, right? Well, we're in the podcast, we're doing this thing, and he just said that because, it starts to analyze.
He's-
No,
and
I
I
mean
just
it from
did
my
that.
heart.
I just
He'll break you.
Yeah, it's
He'll
my
get
first
you
sponsor
eventually.
called it, he called it disqualifying the positive.
sure, totally,
Right?
totally, because
it's a defense mechanism.
yeah, and like I don't like.
Did you say disqualifying the positive?
Yes.
Yeah,
Can you break that down a little bit?
Yeah. So if somebody was to say "I love you" and you go, "Well, yeah, cool, man," because you want to distract you. You don't want to accept it because then you're vulnerable,
Sure.
and then you have to feel it, so to speak, for lack of a better description, right? So again, it's just another attempt that we use to change the way we feel or control the way we feel, I should say.
I like to default subconsciously and based off of feelings immediately. Fuck you. You don't love me. Like that's how I feel in my head. You know what I mean? Like if I'm feeling intimate, like the crawling in my skin feeling,
Yeah.
it's so much easier for me to be like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Fuck you. And walk.
And that's just one of the things too, though, right? It's just one of the things because we can use disqualifying the positive, right? And then we can look further and I can call for myself. I just don't feel worthy of it. I don't feel worthy of it because if you knew and then blah 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 and here come the stories attached to my feelings, right?
Yeah.
That have nothing to do with today. I'm lovable today.
I've gotten it to some points where I don't even know why I can't take it. Like I can't, like someone is showing affection to me. I don't even understand why. I'm just like rejecting it on my core level, like
Sure.
freaking out, panicking.
Well, it's like you get you get emotional, like angry, which anger's the secondary emotion,
Yeah.
right? But like I just shove it down. Like I try to shut it off.
Exactly.
And I don't know why. Like,
Is there
Not
so there's
yet.
got to be a fear
Not
of
yet.
feeling.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. There is a fear, right? And I've never really taken a lot of time because it's funny because this is like this kind of conversation that we're having right now is deeper than anything that I've had in a long time.
Good.
So
Tight.
yeah, so
right.
yeah,
Are
so
you
it's like
crawling out of your skin right now?
no, I'm not.
See?
I'm not. I'm
can
really
do
not.
it.
But
It's a safe place.
But it's not something. It's not something that I've really analyzed, right? It's not something that I've like sat back and I'm like, well, how am I feeling? You know, I don't know.
You're thinking about how you're feeling.
Dude, he's gonna fuck you up, dude. I'm telling you right now.
Well, absolutely. I got to look at my smiley face chart. Right,
Yeah.
with
Those
all my
are
feelings,
awesome.
and like, or my or my circle, the pie circle with the, you know, like I got to go to that. Like that's my guide when, you know, I'm trying to identify feelings.
All right, what's your favorite food?
Oh, tacos.
You love them?
Yeah.
That's a feeling. Mm-hmm. So you feel that feeling, that love?
Sure.
I fucking love tacos too.
Yeah, but
Tacos are good.
Yeah.
But those are easily identifiable.
Right. But
Right.
we can learn off of that.
Sure.
Like, what is it about your wife that you can apply that same love to? Does she treat you really well?
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you love that about her?
I do.
Yeah. So that's some of the 4-step stuff.
Okay.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can like dump all that shit from our past, and we're still working on our childhood
See,
shit.
so Colin does a lot what I do too, man, and what I've learned to be able to notice is so we call it the feeling, and right, but for me it hasn't been the feeling; it's the story attached to my feeling,
Sure.
right? Because feelings are human, man.
It's the amplifier.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
thoughts.
feelings are just a part of being human. Everybody has feelings. So when you go into the analytical breakdown of the charts and all that stuff, that's the distraction. That's the story,
Sure.
right? That's the story that goes, oh man, we can't feel that way. We need to.
I'm running,
all this other stuff.
numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm doing math.
Yeah. Which hey, I get because I do and I've done the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I get it.
What step are you on right now, Colin?
I'm on 1 right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you just recently started working with Kevin?
Yeah. So I've done all the reading and the writing, and
Nice.
I just have been balking on doing any questions. So
Well, we're not in a race.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at is the, you know, and it's a totally different format than I've done before. So
Yeah.
Nice.
Are you working out of the packet?
I don't.
Worksheets?
Yeah, they're like
Like 10, 12 questions?
it's 12 questions, I think, for the first step.
Yeah.
You
Nice.
read the basic text, highlight stuff. Okay. Yeah. That.
Oh,
That's a
I
good-
like that one, boy.
That's a good format.
Yeah.
It's good. My experience is that I've done it that way, and I liked it because it was thorough but quick. Like if you because if you can commit to, okay, this is what I need to do for the first step, you can see it all on one page.
Sure.
Like I can do this. Like if you look at step 1 in the step working guide, it's like
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
you know 90 something
And
questions
I've
or
done the
whatever.
step
you know?
working guide a number of times.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm very familiar with the step working guide.
Yeah.
This was more of also like, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's a little bit more streamlined, right? But also with the literature reading is like,
Yeah.
I haven't gone through the literature
Oh,
in
literature's great, man.
forever.
Yeah, literature's on
So
point.
it's kind of, you know, I guess, you know, killing 2 birds with one
Yeah.
stone.
You
right?
know, there's something about you. That's good that you talked about literature, because there's something about reading our literature over and over.
Oh,
It changes.
and
It's like the
over.
words change almost.
Again?
There's so much change every time you read it.
Absolutely.
I've got a book that
100%.
started highlighting, you know, I don't know, 3rd edition years ago, and then I'd get a new edition, and I would be highlighting different stuff the next book.
Yeah.
And then the next book, I got different things because it pertains to my life at a different thing.
Exactly. Spot on.
But there was something we read the 6th edition basic text in one of our meetings, a literature study, and there was a story, a new story in the back. Like they're all new stories in the back, but I read one of these stories, and I only remember one sentence because my brain is like a sieve. I can't remember shit. I could read this book right now, this step working guide. I could read this page and forget it right away.
I'm
I can't
similar to that.
retain anything in my head. But I remember this. It was a woman that was telling her story, and she had trauma with her family, with her parents. And the one sentence says, and I've learned that I don't need to participate in my parents' life. And it's okay not to. I never thought I could do that. I never thought that was possible. Like I interact with my parents, but I don't have to participate in that drama, in that chaos, in that bigotry, in that racism. I don't have to be a part of that. And so I have a set of parents, and then I have my family. Completely different. And I learned that from reading the literature. Yeah. Speaking of reading the literature, this one, in this book,
Segue.
right here,
Segue.
yeah, in this book, Jim, you and I have both talked about this, but this says, has being abused affected my relationships with others?
Oh, 100%. I mean, right. So those are the things that we work through, right?
Yeah.
Those are the things that I'm recovering from.
You
Right?
talked about that with your wife and letting her have space in your life.
Yes.
The
But-
stories that are attached to the feelings.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there's like parts of our abuse when we were kids. I can look back now and go, this particular abuse right here is the reason for this.
I can too.
In my present life. What's that about?
Oh, abandonment.
Yeah.
I got sent away as a kid to some not so great places, and anytime I start to get close to somebody, I fucking panic. Especially women.
Yeah.
Especially women. Like if I'm getting intimate with somebody and like actually practicing being available and vulnerable to participate in a healthy like romantic relationship, like there's a certain level and the levels keep coming up where it's like, oh fuck, I'm either gonna run or I'm gonna have a breakthrough, because each time I get to a new level of vulnerability, it happens again. It happens over and over and over and over again.
Wow.
And I can draw a line straight back to that fucking abandonment. Like it's a clear cut. Like there's little things that are attached to it along the way, but there's this one incident where it was like, oh fuck me, okay, all right, I am not wanted, and everyone is gonna hurt me. Like I can draw straight back to that.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean I mean, before I got clean, that would dictate my every move. That's how I lived my life. Was just in protect mode, man. Nobody was getting in ever again. That wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, growing up in that house, man. So some of the scariest stuff. We talked about the trauma earlier. I'm going to tie it in real quick. You know, I remember my dad grabbing the back of my mom's head from inside the house, right, dragging her by the back of her head out through the front door, down the steps, out into the driveway, then body slamming her in the driveway, getting on top of her and pinning her arms underneath his knees so she couldn't block the blows to her head. Right? And so what did I do? I ran inside, 8 years old, grabbed my little tape recorder, right? Grabbed my little one cassette tape recorder, right?
Yeah.
Had a little handle on it, kind of came out a little bit, grabbed it, ran out. Okay, again, ran into the house to grab my tape recorder, got it in my room, ran back out, and he is still hitting her. Okay, he hasn't stopped hitting her.
Brutal.
And I cocked this thing back right by my dad's head, because I'm gonna hit him in the head with it, man. I'm gonna get him to stop. And I remember cocking it back, and I never hit him.
Fear.
Because I checked out. I cocked it back and I went, I am ill-equipped to deal with any of this.
Yeah, I mean, you checked out because of fear?
Oh yeah, bro. So I said this to myself. I remember what I said to myself. Nobody's ever gonna find anything about me ever again.
Oh.
All this love and goodness and kindness and this isn't right. Right doesn't live here.
Yeah.
And you're never gonna trust, a belief, all these things gone.
You feared your dad?
Oh, 100%. Until I did the night shift with my dad, I'm 6'1", my dad's 5'9", every time prior in recovery, when I stand in front of my dad, I just felt like I was looking up at him.
Yeah. My dad's smaller than me. And that's small. At 15, I was leaving home for the rest of my life. The rest of my life. I'm never coming back.
Yeah.
I'm walking out the front door. My dad's standing there at the door. And he's like, what are you going to do? Leave? And I had already made the decision. I'm never coming home ever again. And I'm walking up the street. And I turned around and I said, F you, Dad. I couldn't say the word fuck because I was afraid he was going to come after me. I was so scared of him. And I'm never going to see him again. This is what's going through my head. I'm like, I'm never going to see you again. Why the hell didn't I say fuck you, Dad? I said F you, Dad, because I was still afraid.
Still afraid.
Moments in childhood, well, like I'm ill-equipped, I can't deal with this, or I'm too scared, or I don't know what to do. Like later in life, when I found out that I was equipped to deal with situations like that, it like never in my head, I was always trying to make up for the fact that I didn't do it then.
Exactly. You're spot on with that, Josh.
Yeah.
You're right. So creating a safe environment for me, but not my wife, trying to protect my wife. All my relationships that were affected with the intimacy and the abandonment, and it's going to go bad anyway, so let me fuck it up now because it's all going to go bad later anyway. All these things that I use, right? Because the disease of addiction is not drug specific. It is the disease of addiction. I will use whatever I need to use or whatever I think I need to use to change the way I feel in terms of how I want to try to control or hide behind false pride or be all about me. I will use these things, man. And so it affected all my relationships with others, with myself, until I got clean, until I worked the 12 steps, man, until I learned what was mine and what wasn't mine. And so I'm going to tie this into because we talked about this a little bit earlier about the first time I used and this and that. Well, there was a time in my life where drugs and alcohol saved my life because they were the only coping mechanism I had to try to manage this thing inside me that felt completely out of control.
Jim,
what?
That's amazing you said that. What was that, like 7 years ago, I went to trauma therapy. And
you told me about that, Kevin.
Yeah, dude.
You told me about that. That's right, man.
I had 30 years clean.
Yeah.
And I went to trauma therapy. And this woman told me that becoming a drug addict saved my life.
Is that crazy?
Because I would have committed suicide
exactly
had I not found something to numb the feelings.
Right? That's exactly what I'm talking about.
I'd be dead right now.
Me and my sponsor talked long and hard about that one, man.
Yeah.
And then I crossed the line, and the rest is history, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it was a time in my life where I needed to be insulated like that, man.
So we talked a lot about, character defects and all that trauma, and we're at the part where we're talking about assets. Is that the hardest thing to ever talk about?
150%.
I'll say this to preface all these questions is that we were conditioned that we were no good.
Yes, sir.
We were conditioned that we didn't have value.
Yes,
and
sir.
that's not just by like, I think it's important to clarify a little bit on that. Like, it's not just by like our parents or
Totally
like child.
agree
It's
with
like
you.
it's life.
No, and
Life
society.
life in general as a whole, society, parents, friends, relationships, jobs, this, whatever, conditioned to get us to a point where like that, like we just had that belief about us,
Yes.
whatever that sequence of events was.
Yeah, so the way I relate to that, it's in terms of being sick and not knowing you're sick. So you repeat the same process over and over and over and over and over and over again, and you reinforce the fact that you're not worthy, that you're a piece of shit, that you're broken, that it's that all this good stuff out there isn't for you, right? We live that way because we believe that way, right? If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And there definitely was a starting point, and then you have all the outside influences and things of that nature.
And we don't know any better.
But it was the inside, man. So it wasn't like I woke up every morning and went, wow, man, I'm a piece of fucking shit. I mean, sometimes it would come here and there, but I would just go out in the world and act that way.
Conditioned.
right? I would act that way.
We're conditioned.
It's crazy.
All right. So, what qualities do I have that I like? That's the question in the book. Come on, man.
Hey, man, there was a time where I would absolutely not even be able to answer that question.
Yeah.
Right? And so I have a short story about that too, if I may. So it was probably the fourth step that I had worked. And so the questions about asset went, what are your assets? List your assets, and write a short paragraph on how you apply that asset in, or what does that asset look like in your life?
Yeah.
Right. So it was the first time I ever did it that way. Right. Instead of just listing them down. So I list them down, trustworthy, love, all these things, and I read them, and I had a physical reaction to it, right? Because by the time I had read the whole list and read them out loud, right, and then read them to myself, I could no longer deny that I was a good guy. Is that crazy?
Yeah.
And I ran to the bathroom and almost vomited. There was a visceral reaction to it, man.
And that's in spite of everybody in our lives telling us, man, I really like you. You're a good person. Yeah, none of that mattered until we were able to internalize that.
How I'm loving, I'm compassionate, I'm caring, I'm understanding.
You know
I
what
have faith.
That is, Jim? That's the 2-foot drop.
Absolutely, it is the 2-foot drop, Kev.
Josh loves that one.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what's crazy about that is this: when I worked my first second and third step, my sponsor had me list the qualities of my higher power, the characteristics of what I wanted my God to be.
Yeah.
And when I got to the assets, not that time, but as I worked the steps and became more aware, they were almost identical to the qualities of my higher power.
Yeah.
Loving, caring, compassionate, forgiving, courageous, faith, trust, hope.
I heard that in early recovery.
Courage.
That will grow into those characteristics of our higher power that we choose.
Yes.
Not that we got here with, but the higher power that we choose will grow into those characteristics.
Yes.
As long as we are spiritually grounded or spiritually connected, that's where we're going to end up.
I'm raising my hand for those who can't see. That's spot on, man. That's been my experience exactly.
All right, I'm going to ask one more of these asset questions, and then we're going to wrap this up. And then everybody answer this one. How am I showing my gratitude for my recovery? That's one of the last questions. One of the last questions in the Step Working Guide.
By continuing to live the way I live. By continuing to live the NA way. By continuing to show up, give back, practice the spiritual principles of the 12 steps in my life as best I can on a daily basis.
Do you feel that Narcotics Anonymous is a way of life? Or the program, I should say? I don't care where you go.
100%. It is a way. It has taught me a new way to live. Mm-hmm. We practice these principles in our life. We heal. We're able to get clarity, and then we give that back. That's called purpose. So my life has purpose today, right?
Yeah.
Participating in recovery in such a way that it's not a way of life, to where I just show up to a meeting occasionally and maybe have one foot in wouldn't work. It wouldn't, for me, it wouldn't work. I have to have both feet in. The way of life thing is an unquestionable requirement 100%. For me to be able to stay. Yeah, I think that was a big turning point for me too, where it was I don't go to meetings because maybe I don't want to go to prison anymore, or it would be cool if I didn't smoke, crank, and rob people anymore. I go to meetings because I found something here that works for me, and my people are here, and there's a community, and there's support, and there's a full ass way of life in the rooms. And when what you do in your recovery rolls over into the rest of your life outside of it, then it really becomes a way of life. It's
Right.
like
That's huge.
Absolutely.
I live the principles, everywhere.
It can't help but to spill out into your life.
Yeah, if you really
Right.
do it, it just
Yep.
shows up.
The
Colin,
most-
what about your gratitude?
Yeah. I think, for me, it's allowed me to give back. It's allowed me to, kind of just get out of myself, connect with other people, just be, a decent human being, really.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. That's
Like,
that's simple. Right?
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I was
That's
thinking
spot on.
I could give you like very convoluted answers and things like that, but
No, you can keep it simple.
but really it's just thinking, like the thinking of myself less is
Sure.
really the kind of the
I
way
love that.
that I get through it, and
I really love
show
that.
it. So
That's killer.
yeah,
I think I don't know how many years ago, but I was sharing at a meeting, and I said that that this program is a way of life for me. And there was somebody that really was confused about that. Like, I didn't get clean just to live in NA rooms and blah blah blah. And I've got friends outside of the rooms, and I participate in all this other stuff, and I'm like, whoa. First of all, you're getting really hostile and defensive, and you don't really understand. So
Right.
let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Like, my way of life is that I'm taking these assets that I have, and I'm going outside these rooms, and I'm going to go to the movie theater, and I'm going to interact with the person selling me the ticket, and I'm going to treat them like a beautiful human being. And they're going to have a nice day, or at least 10 minutes, or whatever
Right,
it
exactly,
takes.
Exactly. They're going to have a nice experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that simple act is, for me, is a way of life. I'm taking what's here in this program, and I'm going to take it outside, and I'm going to be that example of what we can be if we do the work.
Yeah, this place taught me how to be a better person, and now I'm going to show and act that way everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
The most powerful example that we can set is by example, right? I mean, we can talk about this and put it in context and do all that, but what are we doing? Right?
Sure.
How are we living?
well,
know what
yeah,
I mean?
it's really easy to show up to a meeting and practice principles in a meeting.
Exactly.
Vocally.
And yeah, and
Talk about all kinds of shit.
Well, and I don't, for me, that's not important. It's not important at all. I think the most important part of, of this, of this journey is being able to apply it outside of the rooms. That's just, for me, that's the most important thing.
Me too.
Like learning how to, be a better husband, learning how to be a better friend, a better son. How can I support my community? These things are the most important pieces for me.
Are you talking about love again, Colin?
You know what's messed up? If you do enough work, you can't, you have to do those things, because if you don't, you're fucked up.
Yes.
And you-
That's the
There's
fucked up
an
part. It's like,
imbalance,
oh,
man.
great, now I have to be a good motherfucker, damn it.
Because you know better.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Integrity, morals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
A
God.
conscience.
Yeah, right. I remember sometime I've a couple of times I've acted out and go like in line at the store to the teller or something. And I real short and snappy, and then I walk out and I go, I gotta go back in there.
Yeah.
And I do.
Damn it.
I go. I gotta go back in there. I gotta go clean that up, man. That wasn't right. I need to own my piece and go in there and go.
Yeah.
You know what? That's
It happens to me on the road.
Yeah, man. Let me own that, because
On
that
the
was
road.
not yours, and
On
I'm
the
sorry
road.
that it.
Driving?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, probably.
Do you stop people and
it's
pull
probably
them over and say, I'm sorry I did that?
I'll give you a story.
Oh, that boy.
About probably. It's probably been about 18 months. and I'm driving, and like I drive a lot. For
18
work.
months clean.
No, 18 months ago.
Oh,
Yeah, I've been around for a while at this
so
point.
that's
Yeah,
pretty
like-
close to 18 months clean.
Oh yeah, currently yeah, yes, absolutely yeah. So I drive a lot for work, and I think I'm pretty sure it's a Friday. It's after work. I'm on like the last main thoroughfare that I go on before I pull into my neighborhood, and it's a 2-lane road, and there's a car behind me, and I'm not driving slow. Like I'm not going slow at all. I'm probably speeding, and there's a car coming ahead of me, coming towards me, and there's somebody behind me, and they honk, and and this is how I know I wasn't going slow. Like I honk and like, all right, I'm not. This guy's just tripping, whatever, and he swerves out into oncoming traffic and then cuts me off to the point where like I have to hit my brakes so that he doesn't run into me.
Oh, damn.
And runs the coming traffic, runs them off the road, and I pull off the side of the road, and I stopped for a second, and I sat there, and just enough life had been happening to where I was like, fuck this dude. And I high speeded him through Auburn, all through town. I put it in sport mode and fucking and like there was a chick crossing the street. There wasn't a crosswalk. Could have hit her. I hopped on the highway, on the freeway, and chased him down the freeway. He pulled into another parking lot, and I hopped out of the car in the parking lot, and I'm walking towards the car. I have my glasses on. I take my glasses off, throw them on the hood of a truck, and I'm like walking up to him, and like I am like not paying attention to anything. I'm just like, fuck this dude.
Single point of
Predator
focus.
mode.
Yeah, and I get close, and there's a young chick in the passenger seat, and she has her knees to her chest, and she is like shaking, terrified. And I mean, we were just going 90 swerving through traffic, in town,
Oh, jeez.
and like I'm clean. Like I'm not actively out doing stupid shit, and this still happens, and I get up there and I'm like, I saw her, and like reality kind of sunk in and some feelings hit, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh. And then I stood up because I was like hunched down. I'm about to like go into the car at this dude, and I stood up, and the parking lot is full of people, and they're all watching me. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
Nothing to see here.
Fuck. And then I looked at him, and I told him, like, I'm sorry. You guys drive safe. That was a bad idea for me. I'm sorry. And I got in my car and I left.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that wouldn't happen if you hadn't been doing the work.
No, not at
that
all.
would not have happened.
No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have cared about the chick in the seat. I wouldn't have cared about the people around. I probably would have threatened everybody that was watching me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I might have stole the car. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'll switch cars for the day. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, all bets
Now
are
that's
off.
Yeah.
funny, dude.
Yeah.
That's funny, Josh.
yeah, that wasn't that long
Yeah,
ago.
no, I know, but I'm
It's
just saying.
fucked.
Took the car that would.
Yeah, that's true. Like,
We're like, hey, man, your car's nicer than mine. You're out of here.
Yeah.
Jim, we really appreciate you coming out today.
Of course.
It's been awesome.
Thank you.
What
Thanks
a
for having me.
great, good podcast, great group. And I look forward to the next one.
yeah, love you guys.
Yeah.
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 You guys too.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, guys.
All right.